how should I budget my software engineering salary? I have found that the technology industry is going to give you some of the fastest and most lucrative opportunities compared to most other industries, most other roles. But with that great power comes very great responsibility. You have to understand that the income that you're getting is one, it's because the work that you're doing is incredibly important. But you also have to understand that the income that you're getting is an opportunity for you to help change your life and the lives of those people and those missions that you care about. And an incredibly important decision that everyone needs to make, no matter what your income level is, no matter what you do for work, is to make an intelligent budget. And a budget is not just a plan for how you're going to not spend a lot of money. Your budget is how you're going to allocate the resources that you have available before you actually get those resources. You never want to decide how to land the plane after you're already up in the air. You want to have all of that already planned and all of that already prepared before you see and before you need it, right? And when I say budget, I'm saying understanding, how much money you're going to allocate this much for your housing, how much you're going to allocate for transportation, your medical expenses if you have those, student loans, and that's like your expenses. But you also need to have a plan for how you're going to invest into your future self. So that could be setting up your retirement account and budgeting some amount there every month. Uh, Budgeting for your emergency fund, which is incredibly important, right? There are people that are still looking for jobs months later after being laid off. If you haven't budgeted for that type of emergency, budgeted for not having the income that you needed, you're going to be challenging yourself in order to kind of make ends meet in the meantime. And that's not a challenge that, you don't want to be stressed out while looking for a job. You want to be able to do that confidently, do that and with a little bit of patience and peace in yourself. But having that budget and having that plan to know that, hey, I need to have a safety net for myself and that little nest egg for myself to make sure that I'm not inside of a uh, unstable position later on. That's going to be incredibly important. And again, it's really just understanding how much you may want to donate, how much you're going to give to your community. That's something that you want to plan for. You don't want to just say yes or say no to every ask or every request that comes in. You want to be able to confidently give to the people and give to the missions and the organizations that are important to you. And the only way to do that is to plan it, write it down. And that plan could look like an Excel sheet. That plan could look like a piece of paper with some notes on how you want to just donate. Or that could be some other tool or app that you just rely on. It really doesn't matter as long as you have a consistent way of doing this. And this is incredibly important for high earners because a significantly disproportionate amount of high earners, people earning over $100,000 a year, are living paycheck to paycheck, which would seem weird, right? The more money you have, the more likely it would be that you can make all of your ends meet and save money. But in reality, that's not the case. Most of the time, when people make large amounts of money, they spend just as much money on things that are not probably in their best interest over the long term. And especially when you're seeing a significant, salary raises. If you're not budgeting, if you're not planning how you're gonna allocate that new salary, if you're not understanding how much you were spending from your last paycheck, every new dollar you make is going to get caught up in the same system, the same habits that you already have been using. So that budget, that plan will help make you feel some of those salary increases a little bit more than you would if you're just spending money with no plan and no system in place. When I budget for myself, I have a monthly. So I say the budgeting for me is I won't say it's complicated, but it did take some months and years to perfect. Uh, my spending, I spend normally. for most things. I'm not really an excessive spender, so I don't have to really put significant upper limits on how I'm spending. I buy my groceries, my transportation. Like I have to get to work. I have to go where I'm going. Right. Uh, I don't really go out too often to restaurants, but I do also have like a limit on how often I'm going to get Uber Eats, things like that. Right. I'm not eating out and getting Uber Eats every day. I'm buying groceries and cooking so I can have leftovers. Uh, I am putting a little bit of money aside for my investment account. And I do that using different tools. I have a tool I use called Credit Karma, which is an app that really tracks all of your spending, but it also tracks all of your account balances and even your like it helps you track your debt and your net worth. I use that mostly for the expense tracking, so I can know how much I spent in a particular category, and I can categorize my transactions over a course of a month. And then every month at the beginning of the month, or technically at the end of the month, right? I actually look back at all of the transactions from the last month and say, oh, all right, and I'll say I'll record what I actually spent in that particular category, so I can keep track of where my money is going over time and over months. Credit Karma only saves the most recent 6 months of data. I think in 5 years is going to be incredibly important and helpful for me to know how I spent my money over the last 5 years and what effects that actually has in my life 5 years from now. But I also add on another uh, thing in there. I track my uh, inside of the Excel tracker that I use for the monthly reviews. I also track how much I'm going to allocate or how much I'm going to invest for the next month. So I am calculating what my cash flow was for that month. So I know what was actually left over and deciding from that excess, from that leftover, how am I going to donate? How am I going to invest into my savings, into my different investment vehicles, right? Those investments are coming from knowing how much I have left over. So there's a few steps in there. And part of that is also with me, I can use a credit card to make sure all of my expenses are on one place versus having a bunch of different accounts with different expenses. So definitely at some point when you're getting, maybe you might spend that first check how you wanted to spend it with a little more emotion. But at some point, become aware of your spending and how that will affect your life and your opportunities over the future.